The South African Human Rights Commission has vowed to investigate the death of Mbalenhle Ngobese, a KwaZulu-Natal pupil who took her own life after she was suspended for wearing her sangoma attire to school. The Commission believes that the matter could have been handled differently. Let's speak about this with KZN Education MEC Kwazi Mshengu, who's joining us now from Durban, I believe. A very good afternoon to you, MEC, and welcome to the program. So the Human Rights Commission says this could have all been handled differently. Do you agree?
Well, the issue is quite complex, and obviously we are open to any suggestion on how to handle possible cases in the future, because what we are dealing with is not just this incident that relates to the Ngobese family. There seems to be a rise in the province across all districts where learners and educators alike are responding to ancestral callings. And because of different faiths, that at times will result into tensions, either amongst the learners or the educators themselves. You will know that there are people, for example, who believe that these ancestral callings are actually a reflection of someone who's possessed, who has demons. We have had to deal with instances where certain learners of a particular faith will refuse to go to class or to go to school on the basis that they can't share a desk or a class with someone who's responding to ancestral calling. So this is not a first or isolated case, but we have been dealing with these cases on a case-by-case basis. But even this one, we have been dealing with it. It's just that the complication on this one is brought about by a dispute of facts between the principal as well and the SGP on the other side, on one side, as well as the family on the other side. So if the Human Rights Commission believe that the matter could have been handled better, we will be welcomed, we will be open to such a suggestion.
Okay. So in this case that we are talking about today, is there anything in the school's rules that explicitly says someone who is either a sangoma, a traditional healer, or undergoing training to become a traditional healer is not allowed to come to school wearing anything related to that, be it a cloth, be it a set of beads?
There is no rule in our code of conduct that prescribes such. We are guided by the Constitution. We are living in a secular state where there is no belief or religion that is superior to others. All cultural beliefs, faith, and religions are accorded equal status. And that's what has been the basis of our intervention in these cases. If you look at the history of this case, we know that the learner started attending initiation last year. She missed some of the schooling days. She came back. She wrote her exam. She was progressed from grade 9 to grade 10. This year, from the report that we got from the school, is that she missed 21 consecutive days. And when they inquired, the reports that they got from the family was that she was doing some sangoma work at home. That's why she was not at school. On the other side, the family said, no, the learner was suspended, which we don't have. As I said, there's a dispute of facts between the family as well as the principal and the SGP. But when the matter was brought to our attention, the following day we intervened and instructed that the learner must go back to school, and including she must be allowed even to put e-buy on her shoulders, as it appears to be the case in
So to be clear, pardon me, just to be clear, so when you say the dispute of facts, are you saying, as things stand, the school is saying Mbalenhle was not in school or because she had gone away to perform rituals related to her training to become a sangoma, but her family is saying she was suspended?
Yes, correct. The school is saying the learner was not in school for 21 days. When they inquired, the report that they got was that she was responding or she was doing some sangoma work at home. On the other side, the parents said the learner was suspended. There was a particular day when the story broke into the news. And on that day, the principal said the learner became some kind of hysterical while within the schooling premises. And they called the parent to fetch the learner so that she can then help the learner the best way she knows. And unfortunately, it was on that day when the story broke out to say the learner is denied education on the basis of the ancestral calling. The following day, I sent the district officials to go and intervene on the matter such that the learner was allowed back to school.
Right.
She completed her exams, which finished last week, Wednesday. It was unfortunate that on Sunday, she then took her life.
But she was out of school from March, and if you intervened around exam time, that would be May going into June. There's a 3-month gap between that, so she would have lost out on up to 3 months of learning time.
Definitely, she did lose some time because she was not at school for 21 days. What we also are saying to the school is that the policy says when a learner is not in school for 10 days, that's when you start picking up interest or showing interest as to why is this learner not in school. The school should not have waited for 21 days to start generating interest as to why this particular learner is not in school. But what was important when the matter was brought to our attention was to make sure that we intervene in such a manner that we protect the right to education of this child, irrespective of her cultural beliefs, because there is no one, and I want to emphasize, there is no one who must be denied education on the basis of cultural beliefs or faith.
But
that
it
is
sounds
why
as though it's already happened. Already, if she was out of school for about, whether it was 21 days, 3 months to be exact, and she was not in class because this issue had not been resolved, that then means this young woman who's now sadly passed was indeed denied access to education, no?
That is why I'm saying the complication is also brought about by the discourse of facts, because the school, the principal, and the SGB are denying that they sent the learner back home on the basis of the cultural call or ancestral calling. In their own report, the learner voluntarily absented herself for 21 days, and when they inquired after 21 days, that's when they got a report from the family that no, she was doing some sangoma work at home. On the other side, the parent says no, she was absent for 21 days in schools because she was expelled, or she was told not to come back to school by the SCP as well as the principal. So that is what we are also still trying to find out as to what exactly happened, who's really telling the true story between the family as well as the school management, as it were.
But how will you determine the truth? If now we've got a teenage girl who sadly passed, the school is giving you a different version to what the family is telling you about her having been suspended. How do you determine who's telling the truth?
Unfortunately, the death of the learner is further complicating the situation. But you know, when you suspend the learner, you must write down the letter of suspension and the reason for suspending that learner, even if you were to expel that learner from the school. So it's such records that we're looking for. It's also people who will come up to corroborate the family, as the case may be. There may be learners, for example, who will have been exposed to this situation, who will know exactly what happened, and will also be relying on them as well as the educators and other people around the community who will have known this case as it was unfolding, at least for the past 21 days, as the case will be. So we'll be looking for those people who will then be giving us some kind of evidence and information that will determine, or that will help us to determine whether the fault was within the school. And if the fault was within the schooling environment, we will not hesitate to take action.
And now that you've dispatched a team to basically gather information about the circumstances around this teenager's passing, should the family then say, when the team arrives there to speak to them, that she's now taken her own life because of unfair treatment by the school or the suspension itself? What would be the consequences, and who ultimately would be held responsible?
We are looking into whether the principal and the SGP can be held responsible. As I'm saying, if facts, as we're going to collect them, and if information surfaces that indeed the fault was on the side of the principal and the SGP, they will have to face the consequences. So I cannot say at this stage who is wrong and who's right, because all that we have received are the conflicting reports from the principal, the SGP, as well as the family. So we need to get some information from other people who will have been exposed to this case when it was unfolding, so that we can exactly determine who must be held responsible.
The difficulty, though, MEC, pardon me here, that you may face is that records, you say you need a record, for example, something in writing to say she'd been suspended, but can we really say that in every case where a pupil is suspended in KZN or in other parts of the country that that note is actually ever written? Are there not cases where children are simply sent home without it being formalized in writing?
That is why I said we'll look beyond those records. Obviously, we'll have to ascertain whether there are such records. But even if they are there, even if they are not there, we'll have to interview other people who knew the girl, including the educators, the learners who were with her in class, as well as other committee members who may have been exposed to this case, to gather more information that can enlighten us as to who really must be held responsible around this.
And how long before we get a conclusive outcome from your investigation?
We would like to start in earnest with the investigation at least after the funeral of the lady. We want to give the family some kind of time to go through the funeral processes, and immediately after that we should be able to start gathering information. And I would want to deal with this issue expeditiously, if possible not beyond 14 days from the start of the investigation, which will start at least by next week.
We'll be in touch with you when that resumes and when you've got that report for us. MEC Kwazi Mshengu, thank you for your time today.